Welcome to show number 276 of the Arc Junkies Podcast. Today's guest is Danny Cobb, a CWI, CWE, welding instructor and owner of American Welding Labs in Fort Smith, Arkansas. After teaching welding at a local college, Danny thought to himself, there's got to be a better way to do this. So he took a chance, struck out on his own, and opened his own welding school to teach welding the way he knows it needs to be taught. I can completely relate to what he's talking about and the route he decided to take. In this episode, we chat about his welding journey, getting his CWI, and the struggles he's faced to chase his own dream. We'll get right into the episode after a quick word from our supporters. Today's episode of the Arc Junkies Podcast is brought to you by Rockmount Research and Alloys. Rockmount knows that welders in the field face a lot of challenges, like working in random locations, working in different environmental conditions, welding on equipment covered in paint, rust, grease, oil, dirt, grime, and other undesirable working surfaces. They also know you're probably facing some limited access points and can't clean the welding area as much as you'd like or typically need to. So they created a line of welding rods and wires that thrive in these conditions. Rods like Brutus AAA that allows you to join unidentifiable dissimilar metals, boasts 127,000 pounds of tensile strength and 35% elongation. Or the Tartan AAA that allows you to run in any position, including vertical down, run additional passes without chipping your slag, and its triple deoxidizers handled all your weldments under the worst conditions. They also carry top-notch grinding discs, cut-off wheels, burrs, drill bits, and saw blades. Check them out today at rockmountwelding.com and see how they can help you weld stronger so your repairs can last longer. And right now, listeners of the Arc Junkies Podcast can get a free 1-pound tube of Tartan AAA when you spend $250 or more and use AJP at checkout. Get the job done right the first time, every time with Rockmount. We're also brought to you by Outlaw Leather, your one-stop shop for all things welding. And I mean all things. Whether it's torches or stingers, gloves, jackets and glasses, rod buckets, tool stands, and consumables, they've got it all. And Outlaw offers fast, easy shipping so you can get what you need, when and where you need it. Outlaw also offers custom gear like welding hoods, pocket masks, bolt bags, armbands, and tool scabbards. Outlaw also offers custom gear like welding hoods, pocket masks, bolt bags, armbands, and tool scabbards. Hit up their website, outlawleather.com, and see their entire offering right from your cell phone. Or if you're local to the Pasadena area, hit up their showroom and see everything firsthand. And as a special bonus for listeners of the Arc Junkies Podcast, you can save 15% off all their in-stock handmade leather goods when you use Arc Junkies at checkout. That's outlawleather.com. All right, you know what time it is. Fire up your machine, drop your hood, and turn me up 5.
You're listening to the Arc Junkies Podcast, helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
Danny, what's going on, brother?
Hey, Jason. It's good to see you, man.
You too. I noticed your beard's looking a little thin. We kind of talked about that before, but
Yeah, trying to look a little more presentable for the folks that I guess mean the most.
Right. Yeah. You got to do what you got to do. I mean, I remember when I was with the ironworkers, I had like a big goatee, and
Right.
I had to shave every year to do the fit test and all that stuff for the respirators.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, that always sucked. I was like, damn it! Like you shave it down, then you start growing it back.
Yeah, I worked in the oil field for a long time in a welding shop. I ran a welding shop, and they were like, "Hey, man, do you want to go out in the field?" I'm like, "What does it entail?" They're like, "You have to shave so we can fit test you." I'm like, "No,
Yeah, no, ain't nothing in the
I
field
don't need to go." Yep, I can see it from here.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about you just recently opened up again the American Welding Laboratories.
Yes. So the American Welding Laboratories, we opened about a year ago, and we were leasing a building. I'll get into my backstory in a minute, but we were leasing a building, and we saw we had a lot of potential for growth, but we couldn't grow in that building. I had electricians come in, and they were like, for a new panel, it's going to be 10 grand. And I'm like, can I take that with me when I leave? And they said, no. I said, so we're not growing here. So we started looking. We found this facility. We were in a facility that was 4,000 square feet, office, bathrooms, and everything. And then we moved into this facility. Our lab is 4,300 square feet. The whole facility itself is about 6,500 on an acre and a half.
Oh, nice.
in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Very nice. So now you've got enough space to be able to grow and do what you need to do.
Exactly. And we own this place.
Oh, that's even better. Yeah, I'm feeling your pain on the electrical panel. We just had to pay for a panel, and the panel's not so bad. I think the panel was like $400 or $500, but then every breaker you tie into it is like another 200, 250.
Oh, breakers. I'm glad you brought that up. Whenever we were doing all of our electrical upgrades, we basically cut the power off at the meter and redid everything going into the building. 400 amp service, two 200 amp breakers inside the building. And when the inspector came out to inspect it, he looks at it, didn't even bring a flashlight. He's like, "Hey, how many breakers are in there?" And he goes, 42. He closes the door. After they get done with the inspection, about 2 weeks after we're up and running, we get a letter in the mail. They charged us $3.50 per breaker for an inspection on breakers.
Damn. And he didn't even look at it. He just opened the door and closed it.
No. Open the door and close. He was a dick. I hope he doesn't listen. I don't even care if he does. Yeah, he was a dick.
Well, the good thing is he didn't open up there and find anything that he didn't like. So
exactly. Yeah.
I used to do, I'd be on the receiving end of inspection, and I have a lot of like inspectors that would roll up, like right there on the job site next to the job box. I walk over there. "Can I help you?" "Oh yeah, we're here to do your inspection." "Okay." And then he just like sign a form and hand it to me. And he's like, "Here you go." And just drive off. I was like, okay. I thought like I had everything all set up and prepared to walk through with him and, talk up through the prints and this, that, and show him what we done. And no, because I was all super proud of my work and shit. And he's like, "All right, have a nice day."
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, damn, that's
like, "Hey, no, come back here and look at what I did."
Exactly. That sucks, but it's also kind of cool because he didn't fail me on anything.
That's true. Hell, we had to paint parking spots out here in our parking lot. The city said, "You got to paint parking spots and they got to be, 19 feet long, at least 8.5 feet wide." So we get out there and we paint 25 spots. The guy literally pulls in, drives through the parking lot, and leaves.
The inspector?
I was like, "Oh, yeah." I'm like, "Okay, whatever."
Yeah, whatever floats your boat.
I got some damn nice parking spots, though.
Well, yeah. Now, what's your? Actually, let's back up a little bit. How tell me a little bit about your backstory. What inspired you to get into it?
So, a little bit of backstory about me. I've been in the trades most of my career since I got out of high school. I played baseball in high school. My parents told me my senior year, "You're probably not good enough to go to college. You need to get in the trades." And of course, that hurt my pride,
Right.
And I was like, "Shit, man." Thought I was going to be the next Babe Ruth or something. And so I went to Votech and got into HVAC because, I graduated in 1991. That's been a year ago or so. And I got into it and I thought it was going to be a great trade. And it is a great trade, but it just wasn't for me. And I've done a little bit of everything. I've been a trash man. I've delivered flowers. I've cooked fast food. But the trades have always been, near and dear to me. And I worked for a company. They were a steel manufacturer. We did exhaust duct for like Duke Power, OG&E, Westinghouse, big stuff. And we were going along, man, everything was kicking. One day they walked in and said, "This is not a layoff. This is a termination. You're all let go. Get your checks and leave." Damn. No warning, no nothing. Yeah. It was like, holy shit. What do I do now? So they told us they'd retrain us. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the community college and get a degree in, plant maintenance. And welding just happened to be a part of that. Welding, plumbing, hydraulics. And I got into the welding. I was like, hey, this isn't bad. But I always told my family, I've come from a family of welders, oil field guys and welders. And I told them all, I'm not going to be in the oil field and I'm not going to be a welder. I'm going to be a maintenance guy, And, fast forward through being a plumber for a few years. In 2005, I took a job because I hated the welding job that I had at a limo factory. I took a job in an oil field company and worked my way from just a shop hand all the way up into management. And 16 years after that, I was running the welding department for a huge oil field company. We built all of the pressure related stuff that they drill through. It's like a big safety. It goes on top of the blowout preventer. And one day I got tired, and I was like, I'm tired of chasing money, tired of being in the oil field. And the community college that I had went to, the guy that was an instructor when I was there, he called me one day. He said, "Hey, you ever thought about teaching?" I was like, "Man, I just don't think I'm cut out to be a teacher." And he said, "You should try." He said, "You've been doing this a long time." He said, "You should try." So I went out there and gave it a shot. Of course, my first class, I remember showing everybody around. First class was stick welding, and they were all young. And I showed him the grinding room, and I said, "Okay, that's the tour, and that's the grinding room. Is anybody any questions?" And this guy raised his hands, and he goes, "What's a grinder?" And I just went, "Oh shit, man! I don't know what the hell I've got myself into.
What did I just do?"
But yeah, what have I done? But it really opened my eyes to the need for people to get knowledge that they want, and for people that have been doing it to pass that knowledge on. Because I came up through the ranks of a lot of old school guys that would tell you just enough so you could do your job, but not enough to do their job.
Right.
And I made up my mind that I was not going to be that guy. And now I'm not saying that everybody that has done it should be a teacher, because just like I've heard you say this a million times, just because you've done something for 20 years doesn't mean you've done it for 20 years correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of bad knowledge that gets passed down from one generation to the next in the skilled trades.
Oh yeah. And we've always done it that way. I was a product of that kind of that era. Don't question something. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And, in the last, I don't know, probably 10 years, that my mindset has changed tremendously.
Yeah, that was the thing when I got into education, like I learned a lot of things, but, I started studying and doing more research because like I wanted to give the students like factual information, everything that we were talking about. I wanted to make sure that it was, correct. And that was the hard part because I picked up a lot of bad habits when I was out in the field. That's kind of the way that I was taught by some of the old timers. This is how we do it. This is the way we've been doing it for 20 years. And as I'm doing my research and, digging deeper and diving into the textbooks and all this other stuff, it's like, wow, this actually, the way that I know is wrong. Like,
right.
There's proper electrode storage, and here's why. Here's proper handling of a grinder, and here's why. Like the first thing we did, when I was out in the field, you get a brand new grinder in the box. You're like, oh, cool. You open it up, you pull the grinder out and the free rock that comes with it, and then you throw the handle, the box that it came in, and the guard right in the trash. You don't need any of that stuff. I mean, but like once you start getting down to it, like I got to talk to people that work for abrasive manufacturers, and they start telling me like, here's all the ins and outs. This thing's, spinning it. I can't remember what the equivalent is, miles per hour, how fast that disc is spinning at like 36,000 RPMs at 4 inches, what that equates to in miles per hour. I can't remember what it was, but I mean, it's freaking fast. And that wheel, if it comes apart, it'll death you, and there's proper handling of the grinding wheels. If it gets wet or anything like that, there's actually expiration dates on the grinding wheels. Who'd have thunk it? Right. So
if you drop one,
if you drop it, just pick it back up, throw it back on the grinder and run it. Or if you drop the grinder and it lands on the wheel, okay, we'll just run it, But you don't know what you don't know. And you kind of lean on and rely on what you've learned for the past 20 years. Now you're in front of a bunch of people and you need to train them correctly to enter the industry because they may not get any further training once they get there. Because a lot of, as well as I do, a lot of the old hands, they're retiring. They're getting out of the game. They're not there.
They don't care.
They've done their time. They paid their dues and they're on their way out. So they're not showing anybody. So it's up to, the current welding instructors to show them the correct way to keep them not only safe, but productive in the work area.
Exactly. And, there's so many people. I'm a firm believer in formal education as far as the trades go. there's a lot to be learned out in the field because we can't teach everything in school because we only have them for a short amount of time.
There's not enough time.
No, there's not. And there's not enough people willing to train in the field also.
Yeah.
They just want you to go to work. But you got to have 5 years experience. Well, where are they going to get that 5 years experience if you don't give them a shot?
Yep. That was the hardest thing. My students, we get close to the end of the graduation, and they're like, "Well, Mr. Becker, everything I want to apply for, it says I got to have 5 years work experience. How do I get that?" I was like, "Don't worry about that. Just apply. Because the wages that they're offering, that's a starting salary for somebody coming out of school. Nobody with 5 years worth of work experience that's any good is going to apply for a job at that pay rate. So go ahead and apply. You'd be surprised. You're probably going to get a call. And, 9 times out of 10, they got called back.
Yeah. We've got people constantly calling us here. Hey, do you got any welders? Do you got anybody that can go to work? I just want somebody to show up. Companies are so hard up right now, in this area for workers. They just need somebody to show up and work for them. And that's one thing that we really emphasize is, like Ryan, your buddy Ryan Eubank says, show up, shut up, do a good job.
Yeah.
We made a shirt here that says show up, shut up, and weld. It's playing off of that because that's what we need to do. We need to show up every day and do what they ask.
Yeah, because I used to go talk to employers all the time, and I was, I'd always ask them like that. That was the biggest question. What are you looking for? What skills? I want to make sure I'm teaching what you're looking for so that when my students finish up, they can come and apply and work at a place like this. And the majority of the time, the answer I got, just send me a good person. That's it. They weren't worried about the welding, the soft skills, the personal skills. They're like, just send me a good person that's, that's trainable. They want to learn and they can be here on time every day that they're scheduled for. That's it.
Yep.
I mean, that's 90% of it. The other, if you can weld, if you've passed a cert test, if you know how to cut, fit, fabricate, read blueprints, I mean, that's all a bonus. Now we can start getting into negotiating your starting salary. Because not only are you going to meet the bare requirements of, being a good person and having a positive attitude, you're also bringing a skill set with you.
Yeah, it's a win-win, and that's, I tell students all the time, whenever they go to these interviews, I say, you're interviewing them as well because they need you just as bad as you need them.
100%.
I said, it goes both ways. I said, you interview them, go in there with questions, and not just about how much money am I going to make, go in there with real questions. What do you expect out of me? How much overtime are we working? What's the percentage of weld versus fit? Whenever I was in the oil field, man, we cleaned bathrooms. We had to do it all, because we started out as a small company and we did everything. And there's so many people nowadays that aren't willing to do that little bit extra.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the fact of you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you, because I would make my students do a career research project and say, okay, I want you to go out and identify 5 companies. Tell me, what they do, what their starting salary is, but I want you to do some research on the company. You want to be kind of well-informed when you walk in there. You don't want to just say, hey, I saw you're looking for a welder, like I'm here to get hired. Like, Make sure you're a good fit for the company. Ask them, ask them what their 5-year goal is. Where do you see this company in 5 years? What are you looking for in the ideal employee? What's your vacation schedule look like? What's, pay, holidays? Are we working nights and weekends? What shifts do you offer? Like, make sure it's going to be a good fit. The last thing you want to do is get hired onto a job and be like, oh yeah, man, I got this job. I'm making $24 an hour. And 3 days into your hiring, you're like, oh yeah, you're going to be on third shift. Well, shit, that wasn't in the job description. Well, no shit. But if you'd have went to their website, you could have seen, so I'd tell them, go on their website, do a little research. If you walk in there and you know a little something about the company that most of the other applicants don't, you're going to stand out.
Oh yeah. And, I tell students all the time that whenever you agree to a price and an amount of work, that's a contract.
Yep.
I said, they have a contract with you. You also have a contract with them. If you break that contract by not showing up or showing up late or not doing your job or being on your phone, they're going to end that contract. I said, and in the same token, if they don't hold up their end of the contract, you can end it as well. I said, the only difference is if you don't want to burn that bridge, you give them 2 weeks notice, or you talk to them and say, hey, this is what we agreed on. Can we change this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
go
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was telling you, I worked for a limousine factory for about 3 years, and I thought, oh, I needed a job, number one, but I thought it was going to be super cool. We were building limousine buses, like we would cut buses in half and stretch them 6 feet. And the thought of it was really awesome. The first 30 minutes I was there, I hated it. And I was there 3 years.
Damn.
But that's, because I did not ask questions. I did not know what I was getting into. I didn't know the sweatshop that it was. We were expected to put out a lot of production, more than we really should have, being a transportation company.
Yeah. I'd tell students, like, ask for a tour of their facility, see what type of environment it is. I mean, if you go back behind the doors, because like the office area is always like nice and pristine and everything. And then you go back behind that one door, and but if you go back there and like they're using equipment from the 1980s and everything's just dilapidated and beat to shit and like stuff's just not working properly and the people there don't look happy, probably not a good spot for you to work. But if you walk back there and everything's clean, sorted, like nice and neat, I mean, clean for a fab shop,
right.
Everything's like well taken care of. Like they're probably not going to treat you any better than they treat the equipment. So you can get a good idea of, how that company treats their employees just by looking at the equipment. What shape is the shop in? Are they still running on just ragged ass, half-ass fabbed, fabrication tables, with 2x4s and plywood with a sheet of metal over top? Or, do they actually have a fixturing table? Do they have a plenum table set up? Do they have CNC plasma cutters? Or, are they advancing with the technology? Because if they're not, your wages are probably gonna be stagnant as well. If they're not investing in equipment, they're damn sure not investing in their employees.
That's very true. Yeah, you can tell a lot. And if they won't give you a tour, then you definitely don't want to be there.
Exactly.
That's one thing that we tell people all the time. They're like, how can I find out about your school? And I'm like, this is our address. Come see us.
Yeah. Come knock on the door.
Come knock on the door. Let me give you a tour. You can talk to the students that are here, so that fully what you're getting into. And that's, I think that's what I find a lot of the schools, a lot of the quality schools anyway, that I see out there, they have tour dates set up for people to come look.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Full disclosure. This is what we're trying to do. And this is who we are. We don't want to be the best kept secret in Arkansas. That quote comes from somebody I used to work with. They would always say, we're the best kept secret in Arkansas. Well, when I started this school, I made it a point to say, we're not going to be a secret. We're going to be out there. And, it's like you and a lot of the other Arkansas elite, bringing up those guys because, they're a few hours away from us. I mean, they're quality guys.
Mm-hmm.
And they run a quality program. And I think it's awesome, because we're a small community of welding schools that, like with you're getting into this community. You've been in the community for a long time in a different capacity, but now you're going to be in the community of schools of education. And if we're all trying to put out the best product, and I hate to call people products, but that's, we really are putting forward a product. And if we're putting out the best that we can, then we're all working together to better this country.
Yeah.
I've heard Ryan and you talk about upskilling the country. I just talked to our commissioner, or the chief of workforce development here in Arkansas last Friday. And that's what I told him. I said, we've got to upskill Arkansas. We got to start here so that we're not behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. I mean, and the cool thing is you've got this all over the country. All these different schools that are upskilling people. That's going to be one of like the core things that we do when I bring the school, when I open the school in Orlando, is yes, we're going to offer the nights and weekend classes, the comprehensive, 40-hour week classes. But also I want to be able to reach out to local employers and say, hey, you guys are like running some prehistoric equipment and your guys are all behind the power curve and you're trying to bid against all these other companies. Come into our shop for a couple, 2-3 days, maybe a weekend. Let me skill your guys up, or let my instructors skill your guys up. And then we can get them certified, in the process to be able to do this type of work. So you've got a better workforce. Now you're investing in your workforce. You're giving them a reason to stay.
Definitely. We've reached out to several companies here in the River Valley and told them we wanted to do job specific training for their companies, so they could have somebody either come from our school, or if they hire somebody new, they can come to our school. They give us their processes, their procedures. We train them specifically for what they're doing. That way, when they hit the floor at their companies, there's no in-house training. They're not spending that extra money. They have a little money up front for us to do the job specific training, but whenever they hit the floor, they're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think that would be key for companies, like you say, to upskill the people that they have already also. Because we do have a lot of companies, like we talked about earlier, that they've just always done it that way, and they don't know about the newer technology.
Yeah, they don't know anything else. They don't know that there's a better way to do things.
Yeah,
because they're kind of falling behind too. They're so focused on getting the next bid and getting the next job. They're not touring the fab techs. They're not like checking out YouTube. They're not looking into newer equipment. They're like, oh, well, that saw broke. See if you can get me the exact same model because it's ran great for the past 30 years. Might as well just, put it in with something else. That's
right.
Pretty much the same piece of equipment. It's like, no. Hold on. There's way
there's
cool
so
shit
better.
out here. Yeah, you can actually switch the entire process. You don't have to stick weld anymore. Like just switching things over.
Right. I just talked to a company recently. It's actually my old company that I worked for. They're TIGging some pipe, and they're TIGging the root and the hot, and then they're doing 70-18 out. I'm like, why don't you change that over to, like the Pipeworks machine? I think it's RMD and
Yep.
SST, is it?
I was RMD and STT.
Yeah, STT. I said it will speed up the process. I said, and it's a viable way to weld pipe. Like, well, it's going to cost us this much money. I'm like, but how much time are you wasting?
Exactly.
And how much rework do you have? How many repairs do you have? I said, you've got to look at that. People want to do time studies, but they don't want to do anything with those time studies.
Yeah, they'll hire a consultant to come in here and say, here's where you're wasting all your time. And they'll spend thousands of dollars on that instead of saying, hey, if we just buy this, Miller or Lincoln, right now you don't need to break the bank to get into STT and RMD. You can get a machine from, a new machine that's, within the past 4 or 5 years for maybe 10 to 12K. And you can start running STT, and it's damn near dummy proof.
Oh, and the cost savings, is unreal. Like whenever we talk about getting a guy an extra grinder if he's changing wheels often, that's minimal. And that $10,000, if a company's making, let's say, $1 million a year, that $10,000 is a drop in the bucket, and it can make them, another $30,000-$40,000 right off the bat.
Yeah, just because the amount of
saving
volume.
time.
Yeah, like you said, rework. How much rework you got to do in there? I mean, what's the travel speed, with TIG compared to STT or RMD?
It's hands
There's
down.
No comparison.
There's no comparison. Yeah, we've got a night instructor here. His name's Corey. He works for one of the largest sheet metal companies around here, and they do a lot of stainless. And somebody came in with a laser machine, the laser welders.
Oh yeah, I've seen those all over Instagram.
They did a big. Well, they actually came and did a demo for them, and they were able to weld with it, and they can set it up on some of their cobots, and they bought like 2 or 3 of them.
Oh wow.
And it's going to up their production. It can actually TIG. It'll do their TIG basically, but it can out weld 2 people.
Yeah, I could see that.
And he was like, man, it's quality. It's exactly what we need to do. They do a lot of restaurant equipment, stuff like that. So, but it's going to up their production tremendously.
Yeah, I'd like to take one of those lasers and do some destructive testing on some of the stuff that you can weld with it.
Oh, that if he gets a hold of one, we definitely
Or
will.
just run some samples at work and bring them in, like just
Bring
right out
them
of,
in.
yeah, right out of like the D13 sheet metal code. Cause I always, I mean, it's meant for thin gauge material, but
Right. Yeah.
What are the capabilities of that thing?
Yeah. Let's push it to its limits.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about that. Yeah.
So
And, technology, go ahead.
I was going to, no, go,
Well, I was
continue.
going to say technology is crazy. We got some new bottles. I don't know if you heard of the RCal bottles.
Yeah. The high purity.
They are, yeah. Well, they have a built-in regulator and an on-off switch.
Yep. See the
And
little
just a
red
dial.
arm that
There's
sits
no
up
more
and
purging them, bleeding them off.
mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Those are pretty slick.
We just started getting into some of those. Yeah.
What's
pricey,
I was going to say, what's the price difference between one of those and just like your standard bottle?
Well, on a lease, like we'll pay $70 a year per bottle for a lease.
Okay.
That one's about $130 a year. But if the regulator goes out, it's on them. And you're able to use 100% of that bottle because it has a siphon tube. You're not wasting that little bit of gas at the end anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things you have to really cut your corners, make sure that it's going to, add that profit to you. We have one in our school. It's kind of a demo, and we let Airgas bring people by and look at it, as we're using it. So it helps out a lot also.
I know Lincoln came out with like this inline system you put for, it prevents, like when you step on the pedal or pull the trigger, whether you're doing TIG or MIG, it sends out like that immediate, like high burst of pressure.
Yes. Like cleans the line out.
Kind of, but Lincoln's got something set up to where it, if you got it set at 40 CFH, that's exactly what it's pushing the entire time. So you don't get that sudden burst. Because I guess,
really?
I guess if you're constantly pulling the trigger and stuff like that, you're getting this sudden surge every single time you do that. So you're actually, if you're doing it at a high enough volume, you're wasting a lot of gas.
Yeah. Well, gas is not cheap.
No.
I mean, not at all. Whenever we're beveling plates and stuff, we bevel some with a plasma cutter just so that they get the feel for it. And it's a little bit cleaner, but we'll do it a lot with our oxygen acetylene. When you first start teaching people how to bevel plates with a track torch, they waste a crap load of oxygen and acetylene.
Oh yeah.
You're just sitting there letting it run. You walk back there like, what are you doing? Roasting marshmallows back here? Shit, man.
Yeah, they got like a little campfire going back there. Yeah, no, I've seen that. Like they'll cut apart and they just leave the torch running wide open. They still got the cutting gas and everything on. It's like, no, hit the lever. Turn it off. Just get then you get everything set back up to make your other cut, and don't just leave the gas running.
I walked back there the other day, and guy was cutting plates by hand, and he cut a plate and he set the torch down with it going through the hole in the table. It's still running. I said, hey, this is not your house. I'm like, shit, dude, you're costing me money.
You ever seen those? I think it's called a gas saver, but you actually, so it's like a little stand and it's got an arm on it and it's got like a little pilot light. And so when you're done with the torch, you hang it on that thing, and the weight of the torch closes the valve. And then when you lift it back up, it starts running the gas again. Then you just touch it right off that little pilot arc, and you got your flame right back and everything. I want to say it's called a gas saver.
It seems like I've seen something like that, like on a glass blowing show or something.
Possibly, yeah, they run them. I know. I think Uniweld has them. I want to say Flame Tech has them. I know, like people that do a lot of blacksmith work and stuff like that. They'll use it on a rosebud. So they get the rosebud, everything, you get it all dialed in and everything. You light it off with that pilot torch, you heat up your piece. And then when you set it down, not only does it hold it to where, it's not falling on the floor or anything, you don't have to balance it on anything, but it also extinguishes the flame. You can, you already got your tools in your hand, you can do your work, and then you need to heat it up one more time. You just reach over, grab the torch, and then, go back to work. And when you're done, you set it back on there, and it's pretty slick.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest pain in the ass. I've done a little bit of blacksmithing, and lighting the torch and going back and forth. It's like, man, this sucks.
You got to get one of them propane forges.
Yeah. I did coal for a while. Man, that sucked.
Yeah, right.
Because you got to be outside the whole time.
Yeah. Now I got that propane one a couple months ago, and it runs great.
Awesome. Yeah,
I have to send you a link to it. It's got like 2 burners on the inside. I want to say it's probably about 16, 18 inches long. So you can do blade work. It gets just hot enough to do forge welding.
Okay.
But it doesn't get so hot that if you leave a piece in there, kind of like coal, and you forget about it, it won't melt it.
Oh,
I say that.
Melt that shit.
I say that, but I had I made a leaf, and I had drawn the stem down like quite a bit, and I put that in there, and I got tired of waiting for it, so I started working on another project, and I reached over there to grab it, and I just grabbed the rod back out, the leaf, and everything was pretty much gone. But regular bar stock and square stock and stuff like that, it won't get so hot that it starts to deform it.
Oh, that would be very handy.
Yeah, and that's something you could like put in the welding shop and show the students and stuff like that. I want to say it was maybe like $200 on Amazon. It wasn't bad at all.
Damn, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, and then you get like a 30-pound propane can, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I've already got an anvil. I've got a 92-pound Swedish anvil.
Oh, nice.
That I kind of inherited from my father-in-law. He's an old blacksmith back in the day. So we got some of the tools here, and I've done some knives and stuff back, some handrails and whatnot, forging them out and beating them out, twisting it up. But I'd love to incorporate that with what we do here. I don't want to be just that welding 6 inches.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I know it's necessary, but I don't want to just teach 6 inches at a time.
Right.
We're trying to do more project-based learning, so that, we come up with a project or something, they have to draw it. They have to draw the blueprints for it and then make it, and that, I think they get more enjoyment out of it, and they seem to learn at a quicker pace.
Yeah.
Because it's more challenging to them.
So when you do that, have them draw everything out, but also make them do a bill of materials and a cut list.
Yes.
And then, I used to make my kids call them like kids. I mean, they were all adults, but my students, I would make them, I was like, okay, now once you get your bill of material together, I want you to call the steel supplier, and I want you to get a quote on what that's going to cost. And then I want you all to sit down and figure out how long is it going to take to build this, who's going to do it, and what you're going to pay each person per hour to get it done. And, we'd do all this before the project started. They'd have to tally everything up and come up with an estimate and say, all right, let's go. And they'd get into it. They'd start working. And once the project's over, we stop the clock and say, okay, here's what you guys actually bid. Here's what it would have costed if we actually went through it. So you guys actually lost about $6,000 on this job because so-and-so didn't show up on Tuesday. This guy was out on Wednesday. So that screwed everything up. So you guys lost productivity there. And then you guys, you spent so much time, arguing over who's going to do the welding over here. You lost some more time on that. And then you made some incorrect cuts over here. So we had to order more material for that. You start stacking that stuff up, and they get a good sense of what it actually costs to run a business.
Yeah. And that's, I tell the students all the time here, I tell them exactly what things cost, from the rods, the material. They ask me what a weld machine costs. I tell them. And just the other day, they were like, why do you tell us what all this stuff costs? And I said, when you leave here, you're going to have to be buying this, or you're going to work for a company. And if you're just wasting it, then if you don't know what it really costs, then you're going to waste it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't care. I said, you have to understand this. All of this stuff costs money. And especially nowadays, steel is through the roof. Welding rods, even with an educational discount, is through the roof. With surcharges and all that, the welding rods seem to be cheap, but the surcharges cost more than the welding rod anymore.
Right? Yeah, nothing's coming down. I did the same thing with my students, but then I think they also they start to understand the value of the tools that they're working with, and they start treating them with a little bit more respect. I catch some students all the time. They've got like their water bottle or their their Gatorade on top of the machine. And I'd pull them out of the booth and be like, does that look like a $16,000 cup holder to you? Oh, shit, I didn't realize that's how much it costs. Yeah. Yeah. And a couple sparks and that thing starts, hits the bottle and starts leaking. Yeah, now we've got a problem. Now we're screwing up circuit boards and shit. So figure out another place to put your soda there, bud.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, God, that drives me crazy.
Right. So tell me a little bit about your school. So I would assume you left that other school you were working for and kind of went out on your own.
Yeah, that's a funny story in itself. I was there for 4 years. and decided to start our own school. And like I said, we didn't even know if there was, I tell people this, we didn't even know if there was water under the bridge. We just decided to jump off of it. Um, we we opened up about a year ago. Um, Everything came out of my wife and our pocket. There's no backers. It's just us. And but whenever I was at the college, and I'm sure you can speak to this as well, we noticed there was no flexibility. There was no movement. If you had an idea, it had to go through the foundation, it had to go through marketing, it had to go through the dean's office
Yep.
and the assistant dean and their hairdresser's dog keeper or whatever. Everybody had to talk about it, touch it, and then nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
We'd have advisory board meetings and we would come up with really good stuff and then nothing would happen. And one day we were just like, you know what, let's do it ourselves. So I went in and I told my bosses, I said, hey, I'm going to leave. I'm going to give my 2 weeks notice, end of the semester. I'm leaving. And they're like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to start my own school. And it was like, I got a couple people chuckled. They're like, oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Good luck with that. And I'm like, well, really, I am. And so I did. We left and had no students. We had 4 welding machines that, thank God, Miller believed in us. We got our license. We're licensed and regulated by the state of Arkansas, just like any high school or any other school. We went through all of the licensing avenues so that we were as legit as possible. And we started reaching out to advertising and people like that, and we got hooked up with Cherokee Nation. The Native Americans, they have a real strong belief in skilling up their people, and we got with Cherokee Nation out of Oklahoma, and they were like, we've been looking for something like this. So we partnered with Cherokee Nation and Choctaw Nation, and they sent us a few students, and then we started reaching out, and the more we advertised, the more people started hearing about us. And I had a buddy that shoots news reels and stuff, and I said, hey man, you ever need to do a story? We're here. And he was like, I'll be there this week. We'll put you on the news. So we got in touch with a place called Adult Ed in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and they were like, how many students can you take? And we're like, well, we have 4 booths. And we were having a meeting, and they liked what they saw, and they were like, no, how many can you seat right now if you had capacity? I'm like, well, we have 8 booths, but we only have 4 machines. And she said, so you can have eight people right now? And I'm like, well, yeah. She goes, when can they start? I'm like, I don't know.
As soon as I get 4 more machines.
Yeah, I got to get 4 more machines. So I call Miller, I call Airgas and Miller, and I'm like, hey guys, I need 4 more machines. And they're like, well, you only have this much, leeway in this thing. And I'm like, but they said that we'll have the students. And they're like, okay, we believe in you. Go for it. So we ordered 4 machines, and they the date they were supposed to ship from the factory, they showed up at our door.
Oh, nice.
No,
that never happens.
no forklift, no nothing. So we borrowed a forklift from the people across the street and unloaded them, got them all situated, and bang, I mean, like clockwork, they started putting people into our program. And we have a 95% rate of students being funded and being out $0.
That's great.
And that's what we're about. We have a sticker that I need to send you some. They're F-bomb stickers. And it's got our name across the top, and at the bottom it says college debt, and it's got an F-bomb in the middle.
Nice.
Because we want to drop the F-bomb on college debt. Because I have nothing against college. I have nothing against people getting degrees, but I have something against putting people in debt and then throwing them out to the wolves and saying, go get a job with this fancy piece of paper that we just gave you. And we just gave it to 300 other people. And you're all going to fight for the maybe one job that's out there.
Exactly. And it's a crippling amount of debt too. I mean, like I remember, thank God I could have, when I finished up my degree with construction, I could have, I had a pathway right into whichever company I wanted to work for, because the school had really tight partnerships. But you think about some of these other degrees that people are going for, and, okay, I got a degree in business, a business management degree, or, all these other different things that, okay, yeah, you and 600 other people that just graduated on Tuesday night have that same degree. There's only so many people in, Central Florida that are actually hiring for that, or, whatever the case may be. Yeah, I mean, there's
graphic artists.
Yeah, it's just you start flooding the markets with these, and nobody's really hiring. I worked next to a dude when I was doing structural steel iron work, had a bachelor's in accounting, graduated at the top of his class. I'm like, why the fuck are you out here slinging steel? There's no work.
Kidding.
Damn.
But and that's, we pushed, I mean, when I was in high school, they pushed degrees, and all of the, I hate to say, but they would, the dumb kids, you go to Votech.
Yep.
Well, that's not true then. It's not true now. That, the trades have suffered because of the mindset that we had so long, that if you didn't have a degree, you weren't smart, or you weren't worth going out and working. But, I told, whenever we had our grand reopening the other day, and I told a bunch of executives, I said, if there's nobody to pick up the trash, what are we going to do? If there's nobody to unstop your toilet, what are you going to do? You don't know how to plumb. You don't know how to weld. I said, if you'll look around, everything in this building, the cars you drove in on, the bridges you drove over, I said, they all have welding. I said, this is a very important skilled trade. I said, and not just anybody can do it.
Yeah, it takes a special someone to sit behind the hood and talk to themselves all day.
Oh God, looking out that little window, man.
But I mean, you're right. I mean, that not everybody can do that. I've showed people welding, and they're like, here, you want to try it? They'll mess around with it and be like, yeah, that's cool, but I don't know if I could do that for 8 hours a day. Like, yeah, I mean, if we do it for 10, 12, 14, 16, I mean, hell, sometimes we do overnight shifts.
That's what I was going to say. Shit, an 8 hour day, that's a short one.
That's part-time, yeah.
Yeah.
So I tell people, like, oh man, I put in 40 hours this week. I remember my first part-time job.
Exactly.
But I mean, there's a sense of pride with it too. But I mean, it's really cool to see other people, like you said, like, I don't want to knock on education, but like you said, you have to go through, okay, I got to run this up to, the assistant director, and then it's got to go to the director. That's got to go to the dean. Then we got to get marketing involved. All I want to do is build a project. I don't think we need 70 people to get their hands involved in this. Just give me a working budget to be able to go out and buy materials to be able to do like project-based learning, or build something for the local community or the fire department that's next door. Or, why does it take, like, I had, you generate a lot of scrap metal, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you do is you take some 4-inch and 3-inch plates and you turn it into a 14-pound block or 20-pound block, and then you throw it in the recycling bin. That adds up. So let me take that scrap and take that down to the local scrap station and exchange that for dollars or a check, and let's put that into account, for the welding program. Yeah. Oh no, we can't do that. You got to get the foundation involved. You got to get these people involved, and it's like,
shit's got to be distributed over there to the accounting department.
That's what it came out to, and I was like, you know what? Fuck this, because we were doing it for a while, and then I found out, I was like, the check's not going to the welding program. It's going back into like the main campus, the general fund.
Yes. So general fund, that's it.
You know what? Fuck that. I'm gonna, instead of using my Fridays to get rid of the scrap metal, I'll go out and talk with the employers, and I'll generate a pipeline for my students coming out of the program. Y'all can figure out what to do with the scrap metal. We just started throwing it in the recycling bin outside, which is a freaking waste. I mean, it might be $200, but you know what I can do with that $200? At the end of the term, or at like halfway through the term, when everybody's kicking ass and they're doing good, we can do like pizza, or like one time. I had this place called Gringos Locos. Like, they came in and did a full spread, catered lunch for all my students and everything for graduation. And it was freaking awesome. But no,
and they appreciate it so much.
They do. But you can't do that, because, this program and the foundation and marketing, like all these different people got their hands in it, and they're like, oh, no, that's a misappropriation of funds. Okay, cool. Yeah. It's in the dumpster. Go get it. If you guys want to go after it, have at it. But I'm not wasting my time with it anymore.
Yeah, and that's what they don't get. They don't come across the street or down the road to wherever the skilled trades are at to see what's going on until they need something made.
Yep. Or fixed.
or fixed. If they need their car fixed, then automotive, man, y'all are awesome, and y'all are the place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Or oh, my planter broke and my planter stand broke. Can you tack that back together? Well, no, I can't because it's not in our
It's not in the
curriculum.
curriculum. Yeah. We did that one time. I think like the maintenance guys brought over this cast steel table, and they're like, "Hey, we have 14 of these tables, and we need all 14 of them. And these tables are like $500 to replace. Well, this leg snapped off. Can you weld it back on?" Yeah, bring it over here. I turned it into a lesson plan. But
Yeah.
I mean, like everybody loves you. Welders, in the welding, well, in academia, we're the bastard redheaded stepchildren that nobody wants, but everybody needs. Nobody wants the welding program until something breaks, or they need something fixed or repaired or made, because welding program can do it cheaper.
Oh yeah, it doesn't cost anything, right?
Yeah, no,
Just
material.
Just throw it together.
You
just
guys
throw
get
it
stuff
together.
laying around the shop.
Yeah. How long is it? Just tack it together. It'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
So now,
take you 5 minutes.
With your new program that you set up now that you're doing things your way, how do you have it set up? I mean, like, what's the flow of the coursework for a student coming in from like beginning to end?
So the way we like to do it, we like to start everybody in the stick welding. I'm a firm believer, if you can stick weld, then the MIG and the flux core and even the TIG comes so much easier, because it's the rudimentary, it's the basics of what we do. Arc length and travel angle, travel speed, work angle, all of those simplistic things that everybody skips over, and just tells, you're in a VOAG shop. I just go out there and make some sparks, but I think that whenever we break it down to the fundamentals. We get into blueprint reading, the code book right off the bat. We get into D11 showing, because I tell them it's not my opinion what your welds look like. I said we go off of the code, that we have acceptance criteria and we're going to use it. We measure their fillet welds. If you're doing a root and a 2-pass cap on a 2F, then we want that to be about 3/8 of an inch. And then we explain to them, this is how you read fillet weld gauges. When you leave here, you should get a set, so that, when you read that blueprint, if it's right or wrong before you ever call QC over.
Yeah, they're not that expensive either.
No, you can get a decent set of, I think the ones I have are Lincoln, and I think I got them for about $20. You can spend more with Gal, but if you're just checking your own welds, then it's not that big a deal. But I show them how to use all of the inspection tools that I use as a CWI, because nobody took the time to show me. I keep my code books out there; they're tabbed and highlighted, and I tell them, anytime you want to look in here, it's open game. There's no we're not hiding anything. If you got a question, let's sit down, talk about it, and let's find out what it is. And once they get through the stick, they have the opportunity to become. We use a lot of the SWPSs through AWS, so that they can get those certifications and they understand. We go over the WPSs. I explain to them about the PQRs and what this stuff actually means, so that they're not caught off guard when they go out to a job. If they go to a code shop and somebody throws down a WPS and says, "All right, give me a weld test," they're not going, "Oh shit, what's that?" So we're trying to be as forthcoming with all of the information that we can. Then we go into MIG and flux core. We teach the basics of MIG, because I've MIG welded a lot of stuff, but it's more, if you're going to go to a sheet metal world, then the MIG welding is where it's at. And there's so many people that are trying to MIG weld on 3/8 and above for whatever reason.
It's the way we've always been doing it, though.
Yeah, it's clean, high efficiency, and we don't have to sweep up at the end of the day. That's why we use it, but it's not good.
No,
that's what I tell people all the time. This is not a viable process. That's why there are no pre-qualified welding procedures other than up to 10 gauge. And they just look at you like, but we MIG weld everything. just because you do it doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I tell all my students all the time, I don't know everything. I say, but I have a big enough um, kind of circle of people that I can reach out to, like yourself. And, um, I've reached out to a lot of people just so that, if I've got a question, I don't know the answer, I'll find it. Um, because I have been doing this for over 25 years, but I don't know everything.
You can't.
No. And anybody that says that they do, man, they're lying to themselves just as much as they're lying to the next guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell students that, all the time as well, is don't oversell yourself, but don't undersell yourself either. You have to know what you're worth, but man, you can jump off in a hole and get over your head really quick.
Oh yeah.
Whenever you get out of here.
Yeah. I'm glad you teach to like the code and the SWPSs and all that stuff, and you're willing to admit with your students when you don't know something, because that's one thing I always told my students is, like you, I don't know everything about welding, but I've got a big enough library and I got a big enough network, we can find the answer. So I'm not going to, and I would tell them 100% straight up, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to bullshit you. If I don't know, you and me, we're going to go on a little journey. We're going to do some research and we're going to get the answer to your question, because I'm going to learn just right along with you. Because now you've got me intrigued because you got me stumped. So let's go figure it out. Let's go find the answer.
Yeah. I tell you what, I learned more once I left the company that I was at for 15 plus years. Because, for 10 years of that, I really wanted them to send me to get my CWI. I knew that was, like the gold standard as far as welding. I wanted that because I saw so many come in and out testing us. I wanted to have that knowledge. And I went down to, after I left, COVID happened, and, that's flipped the world upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And, one day my wife, we woke up, she said, "Hey, it's time. You need to go. You need to go get your CWI." I'm like, I don't even have a job right now. We're
Good. You got free time to study.
Yeah. We're drawing unemployment, and you want me to go to Mississippi for 2 weeks. So, I jumped off and went to Pascagoula, Mississippi for 2 weeks. I was just going to
ask you, Pascagoula, did you go to Real Educational?
I did, man.
Great people.
Oh God, those people bend over backwards to help you. And, it was amazing. I didn't get to take Gerald and, his wife,
Linda.
What's his wife's name? Linda. I didn't get to take their course. The guy was named Ken Jobs. Man, this dude has been all over the world and knows a lot. And I sat front row right up, I had my spread, and I was like, I'm here to learn. And we'd go out and people would take smoke breaks. And I told them all, I said, everybody asked, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm unemployed." I'm on unemployment, and I'm paying for this myself, because most of the people that were there were being paid by a company.
Mm-hmm.
They're being put up, and I'm standing in some shitty Motel 6 where the freaking crackheads are knocking on the door at night and stuff. And if you've never been to Pascagoula, man, I suggest you don't.
I suggest you don't.
But and I was scared, because it is such an undertaking. Whenever you're there, it's so overwhelming. The first day, I've been doing this 20 years, and I'm like, man, I know about welding. We left that first day, and I went, fuck me. What am I doing?
I don't know shit about welding.
Yeah. I'm like, my God, I called my wife, and I said, I'm in over my head. I probably should come home. She's like, nope, you can do this. And I just buckled down, and I'd already been studying for months anyway. And, buckled down, and things started clicking. And I learned so much in those 2 weeks, because I didn't go there to have a good time. I went there, I studied. I didn't even watch TV in the room.
Right.
I did nothing but study the whole time. I think I left the room twice, other than to go to the class, and we were able to break it up. Like we did part B on that Saturday after 2 weeks. And then came home, after you take that, and then you come home. I drove 10 and a half hours to get there.
Damn.
And take part B. I go back, and of course, don't know anything, whether you've passed or not, you always, feel you've got that sick feeling in your stomach, like, were those plastic pieces just dented or was that undercut?
Right.
And our the guy that proctored our exam was like militant. I mean, checking your glasses, pull out your pockets, basically search you. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't pick up that pencil unless I tell you to.
I bet I know who your proctor was. Just some short little nerdy guy.
Yes.
I can't remember his name. He's actually a pretty cool dude. He's got Pokemon tattoos on him.
Yes.
Yeah. He was, so when we sat down to take the exam, I was like, he's kind of a dick. And then I think his name's like Kelsey or something. I was like, he's kind of a dick. And then afterwards, I met him somewhere else at like another AWS event, and I was like, hey, you proctored my exam. He's actually a pretty cool dude. He's super freaking smart.
Yeah. Well, and whenever we were there, I had already planned on, I wasn't going to do anything that I didn't need to, because they warned us. They were like, hey, this guy will kick you out.
Oh yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And of course, I had my calculator that I was bringing with me that did the fractions and everything. It's like a workman's calculator. I don't know the name of it right off the hand, but it was white.
Construction Master Pro.
Yeah, construction. But mine was white. And my bed sheets were white. So I had all my books and I was putting everything in my backpack. And I get there and I realize my calculator's back at the room.
Oh, damn.
Because I left it. Oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, I don't know what to do now. So I get there and they give me one of the AWS calculators. Piece of shit. But it worked, But I was so thankful they actually gave me one. But whenever we got done with part B, and I didn't know, I was like, man, I don't know. I drive home 10.5 hours and then set up my other two. And I set them up for a week after so I could study, and then a week after. And whenever you go and take them at a Prometrics, then within an hour if you pass or not. And I remember taking the test, and I took my fundamentals or common knowledge portions, like 165 questions, because they were doing beta testing and they gave us extra questions.
Oh, that's nice of them.
Oh, thank you, AWS.
Same time frame. Still got 2 hours.
Appreciate you. But and you get out of that, and I'm like, God, I don't know if I knew or not. Did I do well enough? And then I get home and I get the email. Bang. And I can't read it. I'm like, shit, I can't read this. So I have my wife read it, and she's like, hey, you made at least a 72. And I'm like, awesome. Start studying, no break. So I start studying for my code book portion. And, a week later, I go and take that. And I'm just unsure. You've been through it, but you did it all in one day. God, my hat's off to anybody that has taken it all in one day. But I made it through that portion and got past that. And then, you got to wait, 4 weeks or something. And of course, what did I do? I went to the website every day to check.
A couple times a day. Yep.
Exactly. And then bang, it shows up one day. It says status active. And I was like, holy shit. And I was home by myself. The wife and kids had went, and I'm like, oh God, there's no way. So I check it again, refresh. And I'm like, no, can't be real. Can't be true. So I call them. And the lady says, well, do you live in town or do you live out in the country? I said, well, I live in town right now. She goes, well, I would walk out in the middle of the street and just scream. I passed my CWI course the first time. And I was like, the relief was like, oh God, man, just a wave of relief. And then I was like, shit, I got to go get a job. The realization, I was like, damn, I got to get a job now, and it was very surreal and very relieving, and then very stressful all at the same moment.
Yeah.
And then I realized I don't know shit about being a CWI.
Right.
I know how to pass the test.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. This segment of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by Strong Hand Tools. Are you tired of warped parts or projects taking too long and eating up your bottom line? Then check out stronghandtools.com/promo and pick up a Strong Hand table to take your fabrication game to the next level. A fab table is going to help keep your parts flat, square, and precise. It's also going to help you speed up your fabrication projects. We all know time is money, and by using a fab table from Stronghand, you're going to save both. Hit them up at stronghandtools.com/promo and save 15% off select fab tables and fixturing kits, 20% on portable fixturing packages, and 5% off tool packs. That's stronghandtools.com/promo. We're also brought to you by Everlast Welders. Are you tired of paying for a paint job? Then go green and save green with Everlast. They have a machine for every skill level and budget. From home hobbyists to small shop owners, Everlast has got you covered. And all their IGBT inverter machines come with a 5-year warranty, and they've got top-notch customer service. Check them out today at everlastwelders.com and see which machine is right for you. And as always, be sure to use Arc Junkies in the comments section to get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG torch when you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal. Everlast Welders. Weld mean, weld green. Now let's get back to the show. That was when I got mine. I kept waiting. Same thing, man. Like I was in the middle of teaching class. Any chance to go to the restroom or whatever, the classroom was right there. I'd pop back in, log it in the computer real quick, hit refresh. Same thing. And I finally got this email from AWS that said there was something wrong with the payment. And I was like,
shit.
Yeah, I was like, I know the school sent that check. Like we got a PO. Like we sent it certified letter. Like you guys have it. And so I asked the lady, I was like, okay, I will get this situation squared away like right now. I'll figure out exactly what's good, because I called him up and I was like, I'll get this figured out like right now. But can you tell me if I passed or failed? And she goes, you did really well. That's all I can tell you. So I was like, I'm going to take that as a yes, but like until I see that active status, I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out what's up with this payment. I'll be right back. And I got with accounting and they got it all sorted out. And like 10 minutes later, man, I went back, refreshed, boom, active. I was like, thank God. Oh, dude, I was like doing backflips in the hallway. It was, like you said, it's like so much stress and anxiety and like uncertainty and everything like all wrapped up into one.
Oh, well, I tell you, the first person I met when I got to Real Education in Pascagoula was a guy, and I will not say his name. It was his 5th time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God.
Yep.
And then you start hearing all these people around you talk about, oh, this is my 2nd time. This is my 3rd time. And I'm like, what the hell did I sign up for?
Right.
We
had one dude, because I did it in LJ, Georgia. And like by the first night, he's like, all right, man, who's ready to go to the bar? And like he'd already said in class, like this was his 4th time taking it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, if this is your 4th time, like maybe you want to like stay back at the hotel and like crack the books. Cause you're planning on going out to the bar and getting all messed up and, trying to show up hungover on class on Tuesday. That doesn't seem like a good plan.
Yeah. Not working out well for you.
No, it hasn't. You might want to go back to the room and study. I did a couple of the guys got together and were like, hey, we're going to do a study session. And I think I sat there for about a half hour and I just realized this turned into a bullshit, deal about, my the job I was on was bigger than yours. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'm going to go back to the room. And like, I pretty much stayed in solitude the entire time. I can't even remember if the room had a TV in it.
Hell, I don't know. I know I had to get a different room. The first place I went to, I'm pretty sure there were blood stains in the floor.
Oh, geez.
And yeah, it was scary. Walked into the front lobby where you checked in and the ceiling was falling in. And I just told the lady, I say, I can't stay here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is not me. But yeah, you have to take it serious, or it's set up for you to fail.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really is. It's not set up for everybody to pass.
No, it's not.
And it's all about, like you say, it's all about navigating that code book. And if you don't put your nose in that thing, you will not know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the notes.
Oh, yeah, the notes will get you.
Oh, yeah. That and the shall, should, and may. I took it in API 1104.
Okay.
And I was, really not familiar with any code book per se. I mean, we did a little bit of D11 where I was at, and we knew about the ASME Section 9 because we did a lot of pressure vessel stuff. But, no, a lot of people would not freely tell you about the CWI, about being a CWI. They're, oh, yeah, it's really hard, but they won't tell you anything about it. They won't help you. And I've had students that are like, what can you tell me? I'm like, come sit down. I will tell you everything that I know that I can. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell you any questions off of the test, but I will tell you how to prepare for it.
Yeah.
And I will help you in any way that I can. And I've had, I think, two students go and take it. And I don't think that either one of them passed, but it was like they got close, but they just did not study enough. And I've told them, I tell anybody, if you don't study, you will not succeed in this thing.
Yeah, you got to study hard. I remember every night that I got back to the room, that's all I would do. I'd pick up something on the way, so I'd leave the training center, and I'd just go grab something to eat, Arby's, McDonald's, Taco Bell, like whatever was on the way back. It was all shit food. I mean, like I didn't make time to go sit down in like a nice restaurant and get a good old home fashioned cooked meal. I just grabbed something, got back to the room, talked to the wife while I was power feeding. As soon as I got done with her, I was like, all right, I love you. I'll call you this time tomorrow. Take a shower. And, by then it's maybe 6 o'clock. I'd sit there till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning just studying. And I actually they had a table in the room, and I drugged that over to where the bathroom was because it had the best lighting. So it was like right in front of the door to get into the room. I just put the table right up against the door, but I mean the table was big enough I could have my code book out, my study book, piece of paper and everything to write down, take notes, because they'd give us practice tests all the time. Like, I mean, you went through it. I mean, they really prepare you to take that exam, and I think the questions that they give you are a lot harder than what's actually on the CWI exam.
Oh, I agree. They say Linda takes it every 3 years.
I wouldn't doubt it. I think they both do.
I think they do too. Because I mean, it is the amount of books and just the stuff that they give you to study. They know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they know exactly what you need, and they give you all the knowledge that you need to succeed. But it's up to you, at the end of the day. But it's a milestone that as a welder, I think, but I also think that it benefits people to have been a welder prior to taking the CWI.
I think so, 100%. And I also think if you're a good welding instructor, like you've done your due diligence, you've went out, you've done some studying, you've consulted with other CWIs and other people that are in the welding industry that the ones that know their shit, not the ones that are just BSing. Yeah. If you go out and surround yourself with those people, and study, I think that helps as well, because especially with like part A, with the general knowledge and everything, because I mean, if you're teaching out of Z49.1, there's a lot of that information on there. If you're going over and teaching welding symbols to your students, a lot of that information is in part A, I mean, there's so much of what we teach in the classroom, different inspection methods, different non-destructive testing methods like MT, PT. You should be able to see the difference between, if you see a photo of a process or an inspection process, you should be able to identify what process they're doing. That's all stuff that's going to be in part A. So, I mean, if you're teaching that and, in class, I think that's going to help you as well. So having a good understanding of the different welding processes, that's going to help you out. So I definitely agree with having welding experience prior to going in, because I think you can have a bachelor's degree in a welding related field and you qualify to sit down for that exam. Well, if you don't know the difference between, a stinger and a piece of tungsten, or an electrode holder and a piece of tungsten, you're going to be SOL, on day one. So definitely having, some field experience with welding is definitely going to help out a lot.
Well, and I think it also builds credit for you whenever you do go out and start inspecting. If the guys that you're inspecting know that you have prior knowledge as a welder, I think they look at you differently than if you're just an inspector. Because I tell my students, I tell people all the time, in inspection world, there's cops and there's people that are not. And the cops they're not there to, we're not there to educate them, but we're not there to beat them up either.
Right.
Observe and report. And if I can give you a little bit of knowledge as far as what we're looking for, then I will.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that before and had people tell me, man, thank you for taking the time to explain this to me and not just saying it's wrong, fix it.
Yep. And that's kind of what I do, because I do a lot of like consulting on the side, but I'll also do weld testing. And I'll go in there and I'll say, hey, look, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Here are some common mistakes that a lot of people make when they're taking this test. They don't use the run-on tab. They don't use the run-off tabs. they're trying to speed through it. Their amperage, voltage, all over the place. Like, we're going to check everything. Here's the procedure. Here's how you read the procedure. Like, I go through in detail because I don't want to make several trips. If I can go out there one time for a client and, go to test their guys and educate their guys and exactly here's what you need to do. Because a lot of them, they may have never taken a test before. They don't know exactly what they're doing. They know how to weld. They can do the welding great. But say, okay, here's exactly what I'm looking for. Lay the beads out in this sequence or whatever, just like it's written here on the welding procedure. Boom. I'm not giving them any trade secrets or, trying to help them cut corners or anything, but I'm telling them, here's exactly what I'm looking for. And it's kind of like value added for the client because it's not, it's wrong, fix it, call me back when you're ready. That's not the way that I like to do things. I'm still an educator at heart, so I want to explain to them, here's exactly what you need to do. Here's how you can fix that. Here's how you can correct that. Boom. And then we go from there.
Well, an informed employee is a better employee.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're not mushrooms. Don't keep them in the dark and feed them shit and hope that they produce.
Mm-hmm.
Give them, and that's the one thing, the company that I worked for all those years, man, if there was a training or something, they would send us. They never sent me to be a CWI or to take my CWI because they wanted me to be the manager of the department, and they didn't want me to fall over into QC and then them have to train somebody else. And I understand that. But it didn't, I wanted it, but at the same fact that they were willing to any kind of leadership role or any kind of, I've been to the Dave Ramsey entree leadership and all of that stuff to help me to be a better leader. And it did. But I still think that going through that CWI course did more for my leadership ability and teaching ability than anything, because it really opened my eyes to all of the different aspects of learning and teaching at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And then
so
a lot of that information that you learned while you're getting your CWI, you can then bring that back and educate your students.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that even whenever you're testing somebody, I tested some guys one time, and they got done cutting their coupons, and they were like, "Here you go." I'm like, "Guys, you're not done. You've got to grind those down. We're going to round those corners over, with an 1/8 inch radius and do this and this." And I said, "Get all those lines out of it. Watch the way you grind your coupons so that your grinding marks go, across your weld. So whenever it stretches, whenever we bend it, it stretches." They're like, "I've never heard this before."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, this is what makes it easier for both of us." And then I will actually take a grinder and show them, "This is what I want. Now you finish it."
Mm-hmm.
Because, whenever as inspectors, whenever somebody comes to the facility, they can weld it out and cut the coupons. I'll prep them and bend them without them even being here. But I would rather them be here and them see the entire process so that they know and that they learn and that they understand this is what's going on. This is what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you can fail a weld test just by bad prep of the coupons.
Yep.
And like you were saying, you want to grind, parallel to the actual coupon so that when it bends, it's it's perpendicular to the plunger.
Yes.
Same thing, root and face. And that really matters. Same thing with, radiusing off your corners 1/8 of an inch. And I give the kind of like the metaphor, like you ever seen, semis or, when they're driving down the road, the on their binders, whether it's a chain binder or a ratchet strap or whatever, they've got like cardboard or a little plastic cap around the 90-degree corners. Same thing when we're picking something up with a crane. You put in like these little soft stops, whether it's a piece of carpet or, lumber or anything like that, because you want to radius those because you don't want all that tension in that 90-degree corner.
Yes.
Because if you have like nice sharp 90-degree corners and you go to bend that's where 9 times out of 10, that's where your corner cracks are going to come from.
Oh yeah, it's going to tear that material.
But if you radius it, it'll distribute that load.
Yeah, I always, whenever we get into the code section like that, we always talk about why propane tanks are round. Why pressure vessels are not generally square, because there's no place for all of that pressure and tension and stuff to gather. It's the same thing with those radiuses. Like you said, we're leaving that tension area so that it's easier for it to bend. And I think if more people understood the physics of what we do, like with the moron factor, I use that all the time. After I heard you guys talk about that, I was like, God, that is so true. And I tell the students, I said, you're not being derogatory to anybody. I said, but you put more on and more on, you're changing the heat affected zone, you're changing the material, and you could be causing problems. I said, it doesn't always mean that more is better. We make welds a certain size for a reason.
Yeah. Well, that's like, so I give the, when I tell my students, here's why, because they get all bent out of shape. If they're doing their test plates and everything and it's over 1/8 of an inch, they're like, yeah, but it's not that much over 1/8. And I said, but 1/8 inch is the maximum. So anything over 1/8 inch it's a failure. And here's why. Like that's when I break it down to them. I was like, okay, you see how your plate kind of curled up and you only have like a 1/16 weld reinforcement over the 1/8 inch that you're allowed to have? Well, yeah. I said, okay, now imagine this, this 8-inch wide coupon. It goes 20 foot to the left and 20 foot to the right of your weld. Okay, your coupon bowed up. Well, let's say you've got so much mass on either side of that weld that your coupon can't bow up. Where's all the stress? Well, it'd be right there on your heat effective zone, right? So the more weld you put on there, the more stress you're building up. That weld will actually separate from the material if you put too much weld reinforcement on there. Now it makes sense. And they're like, okay, so you're not just being a dick. No, there's a reason for it.
Yeah, I get that all the time. The students hate whenever I say, okay, run me 3 more.
Yeah.
They're like, God dang it. I'm like, it's about placement. I said, placement. I said, if we don't put the welds in the right place, it doesn't matter how good a weld it is. It's not worth a shit. If it's, going crazy all the way down there, I said, it has to have the correct placement.
Yeah, the instructors I work with now, because I still run the school that I used to teach at, I still run their ATF. So one of the things that their instructors do is they say, hey, before we call the inspector out here and waste his time, you're going to do 2 welds, or you're going to run 2 plates full, all the way out, root, fill, cap, everything. The instructor inspects the root, and then they do a visual on the cap once it's done, and then they have to pass 2 guided bend tests. So, they've got to pass 2 tests before I even get out there to start testing them, which is a good way to do it.
That's so smart.
I like what Scott Robbie says. Like, no one cares, work harder or do it again. His other one is do it again. Yeah, that's nice. Do it again. Do it again. It's all about repetition. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
I tell people all the time, if you can't do it all day, every day, then it's not worth doing. I said, whenever you leave here, you want to do it right. The first time, oh man, I nailed it the first time. I'm good. Let me move on. Well, your employer expects you to do it the first time, every time, all day.
Yep.
In fact, the other day I walked out, we got done, with our morning meeting, and I said, okay, this is what I want. And I said, I want 2 plates, 2 inches, plus or minus a 1/16. I said, I want them teed up. You get 1 pass with 60-10 and then cap it with 70-18. I said, no practice. And they were like, what? I said, no. I said, just go do it now. Go cut your parts and no grinding. And they were like, huh? I said, you can clean the mill scale off, but do not grind the edges. I said, we're going to measure them. We're going to measure the welds. And they're like, but why don't we get to practice first? I said, because you don't get to practice at the job. I said, you don't go in for 20, 30 minutes in the morning. Hey, let me get some of my bad welds out.
Yeah, let me get warmed up.
Yeah, let me get warmed up. I said, we're not relief pitchers. I said, we're supposed to be the starter.
Right.
And then, they understand more whenever you put some pressure on them. They may not like it, but they understand more.
One thing I used to like doing is get you some 12-inch or 12-inch long, 2-inch. You can do it with 1/4 inch or 3/8, depending on the weld process you want to use. But I would stamp the plate. So you're just going to set up like a regular T-joint for a fillet weld on both sides. But one side I would stamp with a single or S, and then the other side I would stamp with multiple or M, right? So stamp one side S, one side M, and say, okay, you're going to run this, but I want you to bring the single one back first. That way they can't like run a good one or a shitty one, and then cover that up with a multi-pass.
Cover that up. Yeah.
Yep. I said, you're going to run that straight side first, or that single side first. You're going to bring that back. I'm going to verify that's on the S side. And then you can go back and run the multi-pass, and that's going to be a 3-bead stringer. And you grade them on that performance. Every discontinuity is 5 points. So you start off at 100, undercut. It either has it or it doesn't. It's 5 points. Welding spatter, excessive tooling marks, and same thing. No grinder. Like you can prep
arc marks, whatever.
Yeah, arc strikes, any of that, any discontinuity. That's 5 points, and you start off at 100. Weld size, that's one of them. A 1/4-inch fillet weld, and I would do that for all the different processes. And then you can. The great thing is, as an instructor, you can do a test with just 2 foot of material, 2 inches wide, for every process, every position.
Man, I'm writing that shit down right now.
Yeah, and then I would
make, for real.
I'd make a rubric too. Like here it is. Like I said, undercut, arc strikes, weld spatter, excessive tooling marks, because D15 tooling marks on the surface of the weld or the material. That's an automatic fail.
Yeah, that's I tell them all the time. If you put a good weld in there, you should not have to beat the shit out of it.
Exactly.
We don't want pecker marks all over it, and they're like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, look at all the divots. I said, my God, you look like you took a jackhammer to this thing.
Yeah. Well, maybe the root weld on 7018 overhead. Yeah. And then 7018 and then flux core gas shielded overhead. Sometimes that stuff just gets wedged deep in there.
Yeah.
But as long as you're just hitting the weld and the weld and the slag and all that stuff, you're not beating out the shit out of the base metal, you're going to be just fine. Just try to, be very careful with that. Nothing on the surface.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've seen them hitting the damn tables before they're swinging the hammer so hard.
Yeah. They get all over the place with it.
Yeah. That's why all of our booths are made of metal.
Yeah, exactly.
So
now how many booths do you have in your current facility? Are you ahead of 8 now?
We have 10 active.
Okay.
And then we have 10 that are built. And we're waiting for the capacity, because right now we're not at full capacity. We came over and we knew we wanted to go from, we were at 8 at our other facility, but we knew we wanted to gain 2 so that we had the room. Mm-hmm. And then we went ahead. The way we had to transition, we were working on this facility and still running the other one. We had people working over here, and I was still teaching class at the other one.
Okay.
And we had to have a transition that was almost seamless. So we had 8 booths over there, and then we had 10 that we had an employee that was a former student that he had hired on to help build the booths and everything. And he built the booths. We got them all set up, got them ready to go, got electricity ran so that we could just one fell swoop. We moved over, hooked the booths up. The very next day, we were back running.
Nice.
And then we brought all the old booths. We went and got those, brought them over, set them all up. So we have 10 that are active. We have 10 that are ready to go as soon as we get machines and weld curtains and get the electricity ran to them, because we put that on hold. Number one, because it's expensive as hell to have an electrician in here all the time.
Yep. I'm paying for one as we speak.
Yeah. Man,
you think welders are expensive?
Yeah, I should have been an electrician. But we're hoping by the end of the year, with the flow, we've got a lot of interest. That people are really wanting to get into the trades because they see that it's lucrative, and they see that the way the world is going right now, we need it. Mm-hmm. Everybody hears, what AWS says about, we're going to need 300,000 welders by 2027, but that number never goes down because we can't fill those spots because people, the baby boomers are retiring, faster and faster every year. And I mean, myself, I'm in my, I'm 50, be 51 in a couple of months. Even the people, the Generation Xers, we are getting to the age of kind of falling off. Some are. And I mean, I don't feel that I'm in any way going to be retiring anytime soon, but a lot of people are wanting to retire earlier, rather than later nowadays. And I just feel that we've got to fill those spots. And I think that that the more qualified schools that we have, like yourself, like Scott Robbie down in Texas, Western, Arkansas Elite. I mean, I know there's a lot of schools that I didn't mention that are good quality schools. You know, the guys down at South Coast, they're good. Putting good people into the field, but there's only so many of the good, you know, the good schools that are really putting forth that effort.
And honestly, after working in like traditional education and everything, I think that's what it's going to take is for folks that they've been there, they've done the work. You know, like a lot of people say, well, if you can't do, teach. And I don't believe that because like welding,
I don't either.
Welding, the first couple of passes you lay down in front of a group of students, they're going to know whether you know what you're doing or not. So you've got to be able to perform, especially with Instagram, you know, at the palm of everybody's hands right now. They can look and say, that's not what it's supposed to look like. Or, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. You know, I mean, so, I mean, they can call your bluff like really, really quick, but I think that's what it's going to take is a lot of, you know, different independent operators to teach welding the way that it's supposed to be taught, the way that it needs to be taught, because industry doesn't give a flying frick about, you know, what the Department of Education for the state of fill in the blank says, here's what makes a good welder. Industry doesn't care. Industry's like, this is what I need. I need a well-rounded welder, and you're not going to get it by, you know, starting off with oxy-fuel, you know, welding and this, that, and the other thing, and spending a bunch of time in a classroom and, you know, hitting all these, you know, benchmarks and, you know, standardized testing. Like, that's not going to help at the end of the day. Like, they need to be out in the shop, working off a blueprint, fabricating stuff, building things, not, you know, 30 students to one instructor. You know, so I mean, that's the biggest thing is like, oh yeah, we'll just keep, you know, it's the moron theory. Just keep adding more onto the, you know, more onto the roster there. We'll just, you know, we'll fill the class. You know, I taught one school and I literally had, you know, half the class was waiting, you know, for 3 hours at a time to get access to their booth because I had 25 students and 10 booths. You can't fill that, you know, so like one group, you know, group number one, they'd weld from, you know, start time to break time. The next group would come in, they'd go from break to lunch. And then the third group would go from lunch till it's time to go home.
It's just not enough.
It's not enough. It's not enough hands-on time. You got to build that repetition up. And it's going to be folks like us, you know, that set up these different independent schools and say, no, I'm not doing more than a 10-to-1 ratio or 12-to-1 ratio. You know, and if I hit, you know, capacity, you know, if I get enough students, I'll bring in another instructor or a teacher's aide, not oh yeah, you know, it's not in the budget. No, it's in the budget. Like, I know where the money's coming from. I know where the money's going. Like, you've got money in the budget. Yeah. But I think that's what it's going to take.
No, I agree. You know, and like we said earlier, you know, not everybody can teach.
Right.
You know, I figured that out quickly. I didn't think that I could, but unless you're passionate about it and you're willing to continue to learn, that's, I think, as instructors, especially welding instructors, we should be out there welding, you know, not just walking around watching. We've got to be out there doing it also. Like you said, man, they'll smell a rat in a hurry.
Yeah. If you're a welding instructor and you're teaching welding and you're not out in the shop welding with your students every day, you're doing it wrong.
I agree. I fully agree.
You've got to be out there, whether you're, you know, giving a one-on-one demonstration to a student or a group of students, you should be out there burning rods and wires right along with them. You know, go booth to booth and be like, oh, hey, I noticed your work angle's off. Let me, you know, get you dialed in, go in there and do like another demo. They need that one-on-one. They need that constant feedback. You can't just show a group of people how to do something or tell them how to do something and then go sit in the office the rest of the day. They're not going to make any progress that way.
No. You can't do that. No, it's not right. Go try again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's not right, go watch them and find out why.
Exactly.
Like here we have a class and a night class. Our day class is 8 hours a day. They clock in, they clock out, just like they're going to work every day. And then our class is 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
The school, you know, we've got our stick course or our structural course is 250 hours. The place that I came from, you know, we're here 40 hours a week, and then our night class is here 20 hours a week. The whole week there were 12 hours of weld time. And it wasn't even weld time because we had to take attendance.
Yep.
And then they had to go get ready. And then they had to clean up at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So you're there for 2 hours, 3 days a week, and then 3 hours, 2 days a week. It's not enough time.
No, it's not.
It's about butts and seats and retention. And that just, it drives me crazy. You don't become a teacher to get rich. You and I both know that.
That's for damn sure.
And you don't open your own school to get rich either. Let me let you in on that secret.
That's another no shit moment.
Yeah. And people will look at you if you start getting a lot of student stuff, and they're going to say, man, you're kicking ass. You're making all the money. No, you work for Underground Metal Works. I work for American Welding Laboratories. I get a check just like the next guy that works here. You don't work off of what you make. The school lives off of what you're making.
Yeah.
You start taking that money out of there, you're not going to have a school very long.
No, I did my financial forecast for the next 3 years, and I was telling one of my buddies the other day, I was like, we're not going to turn a profit for at least the first 2 years. First 2 years, that's wash. That's keeping the lights on, keeping rods in the oven, keeping coupons on the shelf, and keeping tungsten and, grinding wheels and bits and burrs and all that stuff that we're going to need. That's pretty much what's going to consume all the money that's coming in. Yeah, I'll be able to draw a paycheck, but I'm not, scheduling a trip to Barbados anytime soon.
Yeah. You're not making $100,000 first year as an employee there.
No.
That's something that whenever we went into this thing, also we knew, we have to run this as if we are employees, and the business is the important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it going, keep the lights on. And I tell you what, man, you want to talk about getting scared. We went from leasing a building to purchasing a building in a year because we knew that we could not grow. And if we did not move, then we wouldn't be here long.
Yeah. You're just keeping the lights on at that point.
Yeah. That's, and you have to be able to grow. And that was, I guess, one of the hardest decisions we made was to really jump off and buy a building in the middle of a city, with an acre and a half. So now we have room to grow. We've got a facility that we can, literally be proud of. Like when we did our re-grand opening, I don't know if you've seen the video. We had a metal ribbon made.
Yeah,
8-foot metal. Yeah,
ribbon cutting ceremony.
We cut it with a plasma cutter, and we had almost 100 people for our ribbon cutting, and everybody was like, "I've never seen anything like that." And it was one of those things that they're not going to forget us.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our goal, was to make an impression. And we brought every person through, and we showed them everything about our facility, because we can be proud of this one, because it is ours, and we're doing everything that we can so that when the students do come, that they see it and they want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I can't wait to see what you guys do with all the stuff that you got from Stephanie.
I can't wait to see what we do with it either. I mean, I got a plan, but the best laid plans always go to shit.
Oh man. Yeah.
So we'll see how everything works out. We'll find out July 17th, but I mean, it's been a lot of fun. It's been an adventure so far. So we had to put up an entrance to the facility. So we've got that going on. So you kind of walk into a storefront. We'll have stuff coming in from the outside back into the lab. And then we put together a bathroom, and then a small office area. And then I'm also setting up a testing area. And then we've got all the areas laid out where the tables and everything are going to go, where the students will sit, because we're doing small class sizes, five students to one instructor.
Nice.
So we've got that area laid out. So, I mean, it's kind of going to plan so far. It's really scary because everything just seems to be working itself out. And I know we should be experiencing a lot more problems than we have so far. But it just seems like the more and more people that we talk to, they want to help us out. They want to see us, succeed. So the electrician, he's cutting us a break. The plumber, he's cutting us a break. He's like, when you put in your stuff, he's like, I'll knock $500 off the bill. And we're like, oh man, that's that's great. And he goes, and if you can get somebody to cut the concrete, I'll knock $1,000 off the bill. Okay, perfect. Well, like right after that conversation, the guy that actually owns the facility that we're going to be leasing, he's like, oh yeah, I got a concrete saw with a brand new diamond blade on it. I'll drop it off tomorrow. So everything everything just keeps falling into place. It's been working out great.
That happens when everybody says karma's a bitch. Not always. You're putting forth so much good information and you've helped so many people. That stuff comes back to you. You treat people good and you do good things will come to you. If you're a dick, stuff comes back stinking pretty bad to you a lot of times.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that too. I haven't thought about it that way.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way I look at things. I'm trying to be a more positive person. There's been a lot of times you look at things and it's hard to be positive. But we, as long as we see things and it's working, man, go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think you're onto something. Stephanie was onto something where she was at, and I think it's gonna blow up where you're gonna be. I really do.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Like we're going to be able to help a lot of people out. And that's kind of what I'm looking forward to is, getting people inspired to get into the welding trades. If they come in for a week-long class or a weekend class and they really like it, I know exactly where to send them and which instructors to send them to. And say, hey, if you want to turn this into a 6-month program, go right over here and talk to my buddy so-and-so. They're going to be able to help you out and get you on the right track. You'll be able to go to class every single day. But, some people just want to learn for like hobbyists to makers. That's kind of what it's set up for. But, eventually I think down the road, that's going to be my next, like my 5-year plan. We talked about the 5-year plan earlier. That's going to be part of my 5-year plan is probably set up my own full-scale welding school.
I think it's going to happen in faster than 5 years.
It possibly could.
Yeah. I really think that it can. Like I said, we started with 4 booths almost a year ago to the day. And we're at 10, and hopefully by the end of the year, we could be at 20, because the need is there. And if you're doing what you need to do, the growth can be there. I tell the students all the time, we don't do anything right and wrong here. We do things correct and we do them incorrect because we can always correct the incorrect. And I feel that it's that way in life too. As long as we're doing things correctly, it's going to work out.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. I mean, and you are doing things correctly. I have learned a shitload from listening to the podcast. And when I was at the college, I wrote it on the board at the beginning of every class. You need to be listening to this. And I always tell people, start at episode 120. Love what Jimmy did. Mm-hmm. I do, but the knowledge changed at 120 when you took it over. And I mean, I keep a notebook in my truck. Well, the truck that I did have, I keep a notebook with me. So anytime I'm listening to the podcast, I'm sketching notes down. Hell, I pulled over on the side of the road before, and was like, shit, I got to write this down now before I forget it. Yeah.
There's actually been times like I usually keep a little notepad right here on the table. As I'm talking to guests, I'll jot something down or like a marker or something. So I'll go back and listen to it and be like, yeah, I got to pull that up and dig into that a little bit more.
Yep. I mean, whenever I asked, I mean, it's been, I don't even know, it's been a while, but I asked you to expound on cup size for TIG welding,
mm-hmm.
And what the numbers meant and stuff like that, because you had talked, I think you and Dabs had talked about it maybe, or I don't remember exactly who it was, but you had talked about it and I was like, man, I want to know more about that, because I was teaching with somebody and they were like, I don't know if that's real. The kind of old school guys, they're like, I don't know if I'd be telling people about that. And I'm like, man, it's true. You can gauge your max stick out by the cup size.
Yeah. By the diameter of the cup size.
Yeah.
Cause it's all measured in 16ths.
Exactly. And it just never dawned on me, but I heard you talking about it. It's like, holy shit, I gotta know everything about that now.
Right.
And then you did a podcast on it, and I swear I sat there and I would rewind and write down and wrote notes, and I was teaching TIG at the time when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat for probably an hour, and I just explained everything to them about how we size cups, and why we use certain things, and how to use gas lenses, and why you use this for aluminum and this for stainless. And they were like, man, I'm sure I'm glad you asked that question.
Right. Yeah, I think it was either Christian Cordes or Die Werkstatt from Germany. But they were telling me that their cup sizes over there, even though I mean, they still have like a number 8 over here is 8/16. You know, it's still a half inch over there. They've got a number 8 on it because they don't do it in millimeters.
Yes.
But it works out to it's 8 liters per minute. And if you use like a number 4 cup, it's 4 liters per minute. So I thought that was kind of fascinating that that number on the cup over here translates to how many liters they need to be running for their shielding gas.
Yeah, that I listened to that one as well, and that blew my mind too. I was like, but if it wasn't for the podcast that you're putting out, and the Canadian Bureau, the guy that does that one,
yeah, Max,
I listened to that one also. There's so much knowledge that the people that you have that come on here, not saying this about myself, but you have so many people that come on here that have the knowledge. The last Weld Wednesday that you did, a lot of that shit went right over my head, but I'm going to listen to it about 5 more times, so that I can gather it in. But the knowledge that he has, was it Dr. Rick Plannon?
Oh yeah,
No.
Doc.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's super smart.
Holy crap, dude. That dude, he knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
Knows what he's talking about. And I love listening to people like that. It's like you were saying a while back, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you need to find a new room.
That was a Ryan euphemism too.
Yeah. This is my room right here.
Right. So you gotta try and come down to the Weld Summit this year, or the inspection conference. The inspection conference is going to be in Austin, and the Weld Summit's going to be in the Woodlands, Texas. I think they're probably both about the same distance from where you're at.
Probably, yeah. We're really trying to plan some trips like that, because now that we kind of have our own thing going, we can kind of do that. We just planned it around classes.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't FabTech going to be in Orlando this year?
Next year, 2024, it's going to be in Orlando.
2024.
Yep.
It's going to be, yeah, okay. So we're trying to plan for that. Never been to one yet.
Oh, dude, you're missing out.
Oh,
you gotta come down.
Yeah, I told my wife whenever we started this, and I've been telling her about all this. She's like, she's learning so much about, because she has to talk to people about it each and every day. Because she is our administrator, she's our president. She does all the hard work,
mm-hmm.
and I just teach how to weld.
You just get to go play in the lab all day.
Exactly, I just get to go play with fire, and but she tells me, she's like, the passion that you have for this, if there's other people out there that have that passion, you need to be talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, that's the people I listen to, and I tell her about the podcast and the other people that you have on, or that are on, Instagram and YouTube and stuff like that. I said, the passion is there, and it's getting out there slowly, but it's speeding up, and it's gathering speed. And it's really exciting to be a part of that knowledge dump that is hitting the youth of today, because there is so much passion, like in yourself, and in Ryan Eubanks, and the Weld Scientist, and every one of these people that are trying to put out the knowledge, the correct knowledge. The passion, you get kind of hyped up by it. Whenever I hear you guys talking about it, it makes me, it kind of reinvigorates me as well. Like you say, you go to Ryan's workshops, and it kind of recharges you.
Yeah.
Well, that's I haven't got to go to one yet, but I really get, a spark whenever I listen to, whenever he talks about how he does things, and and how you teach, and all these other, Scott Robbie down there at Precision, and all of these other guys that are really making a difference. It really, puts a spark in, like in the new schools like myself, to really try harder to give as much knowledge as much correct knowledge as we can. And if you're, if you're not passionate about it, your students can smell that too.
Yeah. I'm actually going to try and hit up Ryan and Kyle and see if they want to use Underground Metalworks down here in Orlando for one of their workshops.
Oh, that would be cool.
I think that'd be cool. Because, I mean, it's already a small, like, intimate setting, and to get Ryan in there, just to do, a class of, I probably need some more tables and shit, because I think they usually do, like, 12 or 14.
Okay.
But I think that's pretty manageable. We'd be able to do that off 6 or 7 tables.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm going to have to hit them up.
Yeah, we're trying to get some people to come in. I don't know if you noticed my hat or not.
Your Danny Cobb hat.
Yeah, he stopped by the other day. He had went out to Arkansas Elite, and I messaged him, and I was like, "Hey man, if you're coming down I-40, we're just right off." And they stopped by for about 20 or 30 minutes, talked to the students and hung out for a little bit. It was really cool to finally get to meet him. Mm-hmm. We're gonna try at some point to get the Careers in Welding trailer down here. We want to be a part of the overall community, not just be a small little speck on the map.
Right.
So we want to help as many people as we can. We've had a couple of guys come in and test just in the last few days from, I think a company down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, found us somehow. Was like, "Hey, can you test these people?" I'm like, "Sure can."
Hell yeah.
Come on in, we can do it. And it's, it's about being flexible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, keep it up, dude. I love what you're doing. Like, keep me posted on everything. It seems like a really cool adventure. And I'm probably going to be hitting you up quite a bit, as I start migrating into setting up my own facility. Man,
if you got any questions whatsoever, I'm open anytime. I gave you my cell phone the other day. You text me or call me anytime, and I will help you in any way that I can.
Okay. I appreciate it, man.
Anytime.
Well, thanks for coming out to the podcast. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and where they can find your school?
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate it. We're American Welding Laboratories. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'm on LinkedIn. You can go to AmericanWelds.com and check us out there. My phone number, email is out there. Just hit us up. Let's link up and see if we can't help each other. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, like I tell the students, let's talk about it.
Well, great, man. Again, thank you, for coming out on the podcast, sharing your story.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Oh, anytime. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends and coworkers. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.